What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Convo Sutra. My name's Tarun Shetty, your host. This episode is brought to you by a tremendous sponsor.
This episode is sponsored by Anvita Sharma of Nityanvita Kathak Academy.
Anvita Sharma has trained hundreds of students in SoCal for almost 2 decades and offers an incredible structured training program to help you learn Indian classical dance, rhythm, and the ancient art of storytelling at any age. The physical and mental benefits of practicing this dance have led her to call this art meditation in motion. And if you say you heard about her school through this podcast, you get 40% off your first month of classes. That's amazing. Thank you, Anvita, for your sponsorship. We got a terrific show. Our regulars are back. We got Richard back. I'm so relieved to see
guys,
Richard's face.
What's up?
Smiling
So
face.
relieved.
Super excited to be here. While you're doing that sponsorship, I realized no woman has ever seduced me with Indian dance.
Well,
Baragnathium.
Oh my God, that would be so awesome. If an Indian woman came to my house with like a bunch of like bracelets on her ankle and started like stomping in my apartment, dude, that would get me real turned on.
we have a special guest on the podcast, Subhah Agarwal, comedian right here in
Hi.
Los Angeles. Thanks for coming.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Yeah, Baragnathium is not a sexy dance. What are you talking about? No one seduced you with Indian dance. You're just telling on yourself. So you've been dating white women, Richard?
I think that may be the issue. You know what? I did date a Pakistani woman earlier this year, and yeah, no, she was only into hip hop.
Because Bollywood dance is sexy as hell.
It is, yeah, but there's
Yeah.
totally, but there's variations of Bollywood dancing, right? I mean, there's Kathak, you know, and then there's like,
That's more traditional though, isn't it?
yeah.
Have you taken Bharatanatyam?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Are you
I
South
mean,
Indian?
No.
Okay, me neither.
Yeah. My teacher kept threatening to lock me in the closet with a stick in between my legs, doing that little squatting
Yeah,
thing.
they like hit your feet almost.
Yeah,
Like,
and she was like, if you don't stay on rhythm. And I was like, I'm not doing this.
How old were you when you did it?
I was young. I don't know, elementary school. But it's like, I'm going to go to ballet. You know what I mean? Because it was white ballet. It wasn't Russian ballet. So it's like, they didn't care if you were offbeat.
Was it
Yeah.
your choice or did your parents force you?
Well, they didn't force me. They just signed me up for it. And then eventually I didn't want to do it anymore. I just didn't have the attention span because like you really have to focus to be like, taka, that. Like at the end of it,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
just zoning out. I was
Yeah.
like twirling in the corner.
But you know what? Now when you look back at it, that's what gives you a good ass because you're squatting half the time. Like literally over 50% of the dance is squatting.
Should have stuck with it. No, one of my girlfriends did finish. She did an Arangatham,
Yeah.
all that. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like if you like really dedicate to it, it's gorgeous. But I'm just trash. You know.
No, I mean, I'm with you. My teacher was like, there's 3Ds in dance. Dance is one of them. Yes, you can do that. But you need discipline and you need dedication, and you don't have those other two.
Did
I
you
was
feel like the
yeah.
Bharatanatyam kind of led into comedy, being a performer?
No.
You were like, I'm going to do stand-up comedy one day.
Isn't storytelling part of the dance though? Mm-hmm. So maybe that's where you kind of got your chops.
Man, I don't speak Hindi. I don't know what the hell I was saying.
Yeah, and looking at you, I would think you speak Hindi.
I speak a little bit now because I've been using the Pimsleur app.
What?
Wait,
what's
what's
the
Pimsleur?
Pimsleur?
I don't know. Apparently, it's supposed to be better than Duolingo, but I guess someone said that's the app the military use, which I don't know.
Whoa, dude, the military is so far ahead of us. Like they have holograms right now. They have the future technology. So whatever app they're using, I want to use.
I would hope they're far ahead. They're protecting us.
Yeah, and they're
Well, they're doing something.
yeah, I don't know if they're protecting us. Yeah,
Whatever they're doing.
yeah, I'm just gonna go over to Darwin, punch him in the face, and be like, "I was protecting you," you know.
Where are you from in India, by the way?
Well, my mom's Rajasthani, and then
Okay.
most of my family's in like Mumbai and stuff.
I see you touring now as a comedian. Is that something like you want to do more of, like tour around?
I like money, so that's nice. I think it's a little different as an unknown headliner because like anywhere from like half to a majority of the room, depending on what state I'm in, won't know who I am. They won't even know if they like comedy. They maybe just like bought a Groupon or like got a babysitter and then their tickets to Hamilton fell through or whatever. So it can be a lot. It's a mixed bag. Like sometimes I'm like at a weekend and I'm like having a blast and it's people who love comedy and it's super fun. And the other time I'm like tap dancing and pulling teeth for like an hour
And busting out that Bharatanatyam.
I was about to say that. That's our big closer.
But I actually did incorporate Bharatanatyam into a joke once. But I don't do that anymore.
Are you gonna tell it? I thought you were gonna like say the joke.
It wasn't a great joke. It was just about how that was the only dance form I really knew. And then my friend who was a stripper told me I should audition. And I was like, with Bharatanatyam? But
It would work in Richard's world,
yeah,
apparently.
right?
Oh, 100%, dude. I got in big trouble because I did a joke about Indian martial arts.
What is Indian martial arts?
no, oh my God, it is so cool. And they actually think, I mean, a lot of people in India claim that it's the origin of all Eastern martial arts, that it came out of India and then like went through monks and Buddhism and then like spread and developed and changed. But oh my God, why am I forgetting the name
Yeah,
of
It's
it?
a
I can't remember the
Kalaripattu.
name.
But yeah, it's cool as
Yeah,
hell.
yeah. I watched
Yeah.
some videos. I was like, oh,
Richard's
this
a
is cool.
10th degree Kalaripattu.
No, the newest Spider-Man, the Indian Spider-Man, his movements are based off of that martial art.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like in the animated Miles Morales multiverse. So, God, I'm a virgin. No, but it's very, very cool. And like the way they train their movements, they train with like weapons and these like curly, like these, for lack of a better word, soft, almost like ribbon-like swords that are like
Yeah.
terrifying because it's like this ribbon that can just cut you the hell
Yeah.
up. But it's so cool. It's sick. It's sick as hell. Yeah, Richard,
Yeah.
what the fuck? I'm canceling you too.
No, I've already been canceled, and I tried to take the video down, but someone already screen recorded it and like posted it on their account. So now, like, here's the thing: I can
What a
never
bunch of
become super
losers.
famous because I'll
Okay.
just get canceled.
Yeah, you will get canceled on
Everybody
this
gets
podcast.
canceled though. Nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for everyone to be canceled so we can just start fresh again. you
Everyone
know?
has been canceled
Yeah.
at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I've been alive for a long time and I've done a lot of things in my life. And, I'm sure there's some questionable Facebook DMs out there.
Come to my house. Do Bharatanatyam.
Do you feel like an Indian female can get canceled? I can't think of a female who's gotten canceled.
Are you kidding me?
Who's gotten canceled?
Yeah, people get canceled and dragged online all the time.
Really?
The only
Yeah.
woman I can think of who got canceled was J.K. Rowling. Is there any
Yeah, I
other?
was thinking of her too, but I don't think any comics have gotten canceled.
Yes. There was Dina Hashem. She made like that joke about
She's funny.
She's really
yeah,
funny.
she made a joke about, it wasn't even an offensive joke. It was about that rapper. And it wasn't even anything like, she made a joke involving his death. Like she was just saying it would have been a good commercial for Venmo or whatever, because he got like he was shot while holding a bunch of money. And then a bunch of his fans came and
yeah.
like destroyed, like dragged her online. She had to delete her social media. Like, yeah, that it happens all the time. Constantly. Sarah Silverman, like who hasn't been? Like
Do you worry about that for yourself?
I think it's inevitable.
So,
Like it doesn't even
inevitable.
matter if you've done anything wrong. People will just
Yeah.
find a reason to drag you.
it's do you,
Beyonce,
I don't believe there's
Lizzo,
any
doesn't-
topic that you can't joke
Well, Lizzo
about.
deserved it. Yeah.
There's because like okay, and I'm gonna bring this up in our okay. I was making jokes about P. Diddy's baby oil, and then this girl was like, "Oh my God, you know that there was like a sedative in the baby oil, right?"
Ew.
And then and she's
didn't
like,
know
"You
that.
wouldn't have made a joke about that if you had known that, right?" And I was like, "No, I actually probably would have doubled down." Like,
Any topic, no. But as long as you're not punching down, I think that's it's like, what is the angle of the joke? You
well,
know what
I think
mean?
well, here's the thing. I think you could even punch down, but if you're hilarious, then it's like okay. Like Patrice O'Neal punches down all the time, but his jokes are so funny.
I think it just depends. It's like joke to joke. Just depends. It's hard to like give a blanket statement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there are
He's
some
like,
jokes.
no,
Yeah, I actually think no. Actually, yeah, I
don't
think,
know what you mean.
No, you can joke about anything as long as it's funny. The only reason like Matt Rife got kind of canceled for that joke was because the joke wasn't funny. Like it was just offensive. If
I
it's
don't know. I
funnier than
disagree
offensive,
with
then it's
that.
okay.
I sometimes wonder though if it's like too soon. Like if it's too soon and too sensitive, like the P. Diddy stuff, just because like people are still working through.
You could joke. People
the
made 9/11
issues.
jokes the day of 9/11. Like Louis C.K. had a joke on his special about 9/11 that came out a month after 9/11. You can make jokes about anything. You just got to be really fucking funny.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think some points of view that come to the joke are pretty like, as long, you know what I mean? It's different if it's like quote unquote gallows humor, where it's like, okay, this is obviously sarcastic and not true, as opposed to somebody who's just saying something really hateful and they've dressed it up in a joke and then people laugh because they also have that hate in their heart and it's really gross.
Well, there's a difference between hate and a joke. I'm saying no, hate is not allowed.
yeah,
but being funny is allowed.
they put it, it's a little Red Riding Hood. It's just like little grandma.
Well, you're
and a-
towing the line, yeah.
Yeah.
But all comedy is towing the line. If there's no towing the line, it's not a good joke.
I mean, I guess there's different variations of comedians, but some comedians, you know, they do want to push themselves. And I see you do that too on stage. I feel like you do take a risk on stage, which is why I like your comedy. You're not just like playing it safe.
I know. I just think there are some, you've never heard a joke where you're like, ew. You've never done that?
I've done, because the joke's not funny.
Yeah, but it's not funny because it's gross.
Yeah, exactly. So comedy is always a balance between funny and gross. If it's grosser than it's funny, then it's gross. If it's funnier than it's gross, then it's hilarious.
Rich, I'm going to tell you, have you guys noticed, sorry, Ritu, about making this all about comedy, but sometimes
like this.
I see comedians, new comedians, and it's all shock now, and there's no like jokes now.
Well, that's just a very popular vein of comedy that's kind of cropped up, which is, it'll
Yeah.
fade. It's like how in the early 2000s when everyone was like Dane cooking it, you know?
Yeah.
And now everyone's just saying slurs.
I don't mind this conversation being about comedy because I'm your audience. Like I'm the one who pays to go to your shows to
So I do
see
want to
what's
say,
happening.
yeah, I want to say that Ritu's audience, because I didn't get a chance to say this, was really good. You brought all your friends to my show, and I was very, very nervous leading up to the show because when I see large swaths of Indian people in my audience, I get super nervous that they're not going to understand what comedy is and why I'm saying the things I'm going to say. Your audience was great. They went with me on all my super dark stuff. I did jokes about schizophrenia, my dead dad, and they laughed at everything. I just want to say props to your friends.
So my friends that have heard some episodes, right? They're like, why do the people on the show that host with you think that Indian people aren't normal and can't laugh at jokes? Like we all grew up here. We're just normal. Like, so whatever joke.
I've
you
just
say-
had a lot of bad
is that a
experiences.
vibe?
That's-
Oh yeah, I've had
don't
really bad
know.
experiences with, because I've done so many Indian corporate events, like
Well, they're
in
corporate.
India or here?
here.
Oh, really?
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, it's
And,
a
and birthday
corporate-
parties also.
It's a corporate event. You're listing the worst places for comedy and then blaming it on Indians. Like any corporate event is going to be shit.
I mean, I've been a white birthday party was more fun than the Indian birthday party that I did.
I have done Indian shows. I used to travel like seriously all over, like twice a month at least for about 3 years. And Indians didn't even know why they were hiring me. They just booked me because Russell Peters
Yeah,
was
exactly.
huge.
Well, it's also like there's millions of us of different generations in the
Yeah.
Indian diaspora. So it's like, to me, it really just depends on like what kind of Indian crowd it is. If it's like an older, more traditional crowd that left India and then didn't modernize with them, that's going to be a total different vibe. You know
Well,
what
totally.
I mean?
But your jokes were also like I had friends who were like, "Oh, I would have brought my kids or like my parents to even see his show because like your stuff was clean, you know,
Yeah.
and it was relatable too."
Yeah. I try to be as relatable as possible. I think the issue for me is that I opened for Veer Das for many years, and
Well, his crowd is so different.
yeah.
Very
And
different.
Yeah.
they're Indian people.
Let's trash
from
Veer
India.
Das. Let's go for
No,
it.
I'm just saying that like I wasn't able to relate to his crowd at all. So I think I may have gotten soured because they were just waiting for him the whole time. And I'm like, he's an Indian guy from India. I'm a Indian guy from here. We're completely different. And were just like,
Are you different?
then Veer Das?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I know it's completely different.
Actually, stuff that you joked about because your forte is mental health. A lot of stuff that you joked about opened up conversations after when I met my friends.
Oh,
like
nice.
people were like, "Oh, like I've never heard an Indian person talk about like schizophrenia or like mental
Yeah.
health issues," and
That's
then
beautiful.
people started to open up about how it was a joke, but actually I know what it's like to grow up in a house like that, or I know what it's
Yeah.
like to have a family member or experience that. So you were funny, but then you opened up a bigger.
Yeah, I really appreciate that because I think a lot of Indian people just will not talk about mental illness just because it's so taboo.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, and when they see comedy, like they want to hear Russell Peters, they want to hear like the big Indian comedians that don't talk about anything that's too like in the psyche. And I think that's why I liked your audience.
You dropped an Amazon special. So is that in your, I guess, wheelhouse to just keep churning out specials online?
It is now. At first, I was kind of waiting. I waited for a really long time because it's like the typical LA story where I kept getting close to breaking and then nothing ever came.
What does that
and
mean,
so,
close to breaking?
Like being the lead of a couple of series, like big series, being like in the top 10 or being like really close to breaking in a movie or like having all these big names attached to a project I was pitching and everyone being like, this is going to go, this is perfect for the market. And then it not go, like all of these things that it's like, okay, this breaks me because I'm ready. I've been doing the work. So the second I get one, I know I'm ready to go. Like I've got this, you know, I've just put in too much. I just need that one. And I kept getting so close to that one domino falling and then it just all all disappearing in front of me. It's just, this city is devastating. So I kept waiting because I was like, oh, I'll wait to put out my first comedy special when I have that domino fall. And then of course, this was like literally before social media and before all that shit changed. And so after a while, I was just outgrowing my material because I've been doing stand-up since I was 17, and then I never really put it together. And then I was like, okay, I have jokes about my mom being mad I'm not a virgin. Like I'm about to be in my third, like I can't do these jokes.
Yeah.
So this album, I was like, the first hour I did, which is an album, I'm also going to drop it as a YouTube special because I get so mad when people are like, oh, your first hour. I'm like, bitch, I have two. So
So nice to your fans. Bitch, I have two.
well, it's so annoying. They're like, oh, congrats, your first. I'm like, this is my second hour. Stop ignoring the first one. But which is on me. I didn't promote it at all. So I kind of just recorded that hour to get it out of the way. And then I almost already had a second hour ready to go. And it's like my earlier stuff, I'm fine just having it gone because I should have more than 2 hours. But it's like I was so young. I was like in high school. I was like finding my voice and stuff.
Oh, you're like
So-
an Indian female Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, okay.
Doing comedy in high school.
Dave Chappelle isn't ordering off of the value menu at Taco Bell. So like that
He
first
probably
hour.
is. Let's be real.
Dude, the
He's not ordering off Taco Bell.
Taco Bell is so
menu though,
good.
the value menu though, no, he's getting that cheesy gordita
ordering-
crunch with
Oh,
all the
yeah.
No,
things.
he's now ordering off the Eras menu.
Hilarious.
That menu.
But I had that first hour done, and then the second hour was ready to go, and now my third hour is ready to go. But I write a lot, and I love performing. Like they call it a stage rat, or if you're in Australia, a gig pig. Like I just like being on stage. I like turning out jokes. It makes me feel useful. So it's just, I'm just turning it out, dropping it. I don't really care anymore. It's just,
That's the best attitude to have in LA. I feel like when you stop giving a shit about this town, then things start to move and you're doing it yourself.
I mean, sorry,
Where are you originally from? Sorry.
north of Chicago.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So you had an adjustment to LA lifestyle.
Well, I went to New York for many years. So that was definitely a culture shock because I was from the suburbs of Chicago and then I went straight to New York and that city ate me alive. And then I came to LA, but it was a culture shock, New York to LA.
Yeah.
I did not handle it well at all.
What happened?
Well, I just cried a lot.
Still?
Actually, before this podcast, maybe after that Kleenex is for me.
That's why your skin looks so good right now.
This is the
I like what you're saying about just like cranking out stuff and doing the work. I see myself these days not as a stand-up comedian, but actually as like a craftsperson. Like I look at like my jokes as like a woodwork or something. I'm like, that is done.
Yeah,
Now that's
exactly.
done. And then I do my work every day. And that makes me feel better because I'm like, okay, this is what I did today, rather than like, oh, did I book this thing? Did I book that thing?
Yeah.
These are things I'm in control of.
exactly.
You're like Daniel Day-Lewis, like making shoes, the shoe cobbler in Italy. Richard,
Oh,
just
dude.
churning away those jokes and
Oh
whistling.
my God.
You know that card that I gave you on Christmas?
Oh, by the way, Ritu got me this mug. Thank you, Ritu, for this mug.
You're welcome.
The holiday party.
So I wrote in that card the ABC, always be creating. I actually was inspired by Richard because of a conversation we had, because we were talking about how we had gone to go see that play Waiting for Godot and how life is just about
Yeah, life is
What,
just about
waiting?
waiting. Yeah, it's
Waiting?
It's just how good can you wait? That's what life is. You know, it's like, oh, you can jerk off today. You can go drink coffee. You can go have a conversation with people. We're all just, this is all waiting for Godot.
Yeah. So then when we were talking about that, I was also saying how sometimes when people get older, are they just waiting till it's over, like to die, right? So then we were talking about, well, what would you do if you like retired, and is it about travel or is it about going places and exploring or creating a family? And he was just like, I just always want to be creating. So that's where I got the always be creating, because I really love that.
From Richard.
Yeah.
I'm the inventor of the ABCs. You'll know me, Richard
On my
Sarvate.
wall.
But I feel like, you know, like George Carlin performed until the day he died. So, I mean, I think that'll be me. Like, I just don't want to die on stage. That would be kind of a bummer, I think.
I mean, if you weren't shot, but like if you just kind of naturally died laughing.
I don't want to traumatize my audience. Subhah, would you like to die on stage?
God, no.
So I'm curious, if you started so young, like who was your inspiration? You must have been doing comedy for a long time. Who was out there when you were starting?
Russell Peters.
Yeah.
So he was the reason I was trying to impress a bunch of Indian kids. So I became.
Oh, sorry. During that time, I used to see Rajiv Satyal online a lot too.
Oh, yeah?
Remember, do you think, I feel like Russell and his videos were like the two ones going all the time.
I just knew that one clip from Russell that went super viral.
Yeah, that one went super viral.
Because like that's what all the Indian kids shared. So then I like was trying to be like Russell, and then didn't pan out. I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I'm like, don't you hate it how Indian people love coffee? They're like, what are you talking about? It made no sense. I knew nothing. I can't be Russell if I knew nothing of the culture. And then I was performing in a very Indian area, or next to an Indian area in Chicago. So like Indian people would come and just stare daggers at me.
Where were you, Shamsburg?
I started at a place called Pressure Cafe, which was right next to the Vaughan Avenue. Like it was very close.
Okay.
So yeah, that was rough, but it knocked it out of me real quick, which is good. And then I started just watching like Premium Blend, all the Comedy Central. And it's so funny because like I didn't listen to albums because I was just like illegally downloading Comedy Central and like watching it when my parents went to bed. So like all the stand up I got was like
It was like
cut
doing
up.
drugs in an Indian household, watching comedy.
They were not okay with that.
Your parents are like, Subhah, what's underneath the pillowcase? And you're like, it's just Comedy Central.
She's in rehab.
I can't stop laughing.
I was trying to think of what the equivalent of that thing they give you to get you off of heroin would be.
Oh, methadone. Oh, yeah.
Laughing methadone.
Yeah, they just like tickle you every once in a while.
It's not the same. No, I didn't know who any of the comedians were, but I knew their jokes because like Comedy Central late night, they'd cut up everybody's set. So it was just like, I didn't know that was like a Bill Hicks joke about smoking. I'd be like, oh yeah, that guy from Premium Blend. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? You mean Bill Hicks? But
yeah.
like, that's how I was like consuming comedy when I was like young.
Do you think there's too many comedians now?
No, I think it's a very depressing time for comedy because quality absolutely does not matter.
Yeah.
It does not matter
100%.
to anyone except for the person making it. It doesn't matter to the audience. Like I've seen like objectively terrible jokes.
Yeah.
And then the crowd just eat it up. Just num 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 num. Like they just like it's wild. You know what I mean? Quality doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for getting a Netflix special. Like give it to people just who have the most followers. Like it doesn't like literally 2-3 years in, they'll give you a special if you like have hit. It's just to specials, to clubs, to industry, like quality is out of the picture. So
yeah.
And I mean, of course, there are always problems with like the concept of gatekeepers and tastemakers because inherently most power structures in this country are like racist and misogynistic. So it's like not that system was perfect, but like, you know, the internet allowed people from underrepresented groups to pop up because, you know, their voices had never been given a chance. So I see like that's good too. But now there's no quality control.
But you know what?
It's
I would
wild.
say that for you guys from like a career standpoint, because that's what you do for a living, it probably matters, quality that you're talking about. For us as consumers of comedy, we just want to laugh. So like whether it's going to like Haha Comedy Cafe in North Hollywood or whether it's going to the Comedy Store or whether it's even scrolling on like TikTok or IG and just seeing somebody that can make you laugh because of the way that the times are. You were talking about it being a sad time and I was like, oh yeah, I see it's a sad time. But you're like, no, it's a sad time for comics. But I was like, it's a sad time for people in general. So they're just looking for an outlet of like, just let me see something that makes me laugh. So half the time, like my friends and I, when we're sending each other stories on Instagram, it's not like, I mean, there's groups where we send serious stuff, but there's literally groups where like we can start our day just laughing and chuckling about something because like the reel somebody made was really funny.
Subhah, I really like how you will go anywhere. Like you were working Tampa?
I'm going to be working, what is it, West Chapel, Florida soon?
Yeah, I was actually in Florida. Those are very mainstream rooms.
Yeah.
I follow you on Instagram and I was like, oh, she's actually working real rooms. Like I see a lot of comedians and they can only play like these LA 8-minute spots. But if you put them on the road, I know they go eaten alive. So I know you're putting yourself in like these, you know, like real situations. So a lot of props to you.
Well, you have to too, because it's like I don't want my comedy to be so specific. Like it's a delicate balance between being very true to yourself, but then also being able to communicate what and who you are to a broader audience. That's like part of the art to me.
Yeah.
And then also you're not going to get in LA, very rarely are you going to get a chance to do your full hour. And it's like, and when I'm putting together an hour, I want there to be like a story, a flow, a narrative. Does this all make sense? Do I need to write more to that? Like I need the time to stretch. Granted, when I'm in Florida, I'm not going to be doing Trump jokes. I'm not fighting that fight. But like, still, there's a lot we have in common.
Florida's a
that I
lot
can
of
talk
fun.
about.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love doing comedy on the road and these like, especially these road rooms, because they just want to have a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, so, but do you feel like if you don't feel increased, like it's worth pursuing? Like, say your career's flatlined, share whatever this is. Like, say you're just tour for the next 20 years. Would you be okay with that?
I think it's also a really rough lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like being on the road, touring, being out every night, writing jokes. Like, I don't know. It's rough. You know what I mean? I'm really tired. I poured so much of myself into this and I did not have an easy path at all. Like I've been through so much. And then I think about like, is that sacrifice, like what I've given up for what I'm getting out, enough for me?
Is it?
I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm like, we'll see. I'm just taking it day by day, year by year.
Oh, I love that answer. That's what we say all the time. It's like day by day. It's like enjoy the moments of it.
Yeah.
What about you, Ritu? What do you think? As your outside perspective, like, do you try to enjoy the moments day by day?
I mean, I think like when I think about planning things, they don't always go the way they're planned. So I do try to just ride the wave and see where the wave goes, but just try to stay balanced on the wave. So even if like for example, like if you're pursuing something and it's not going a certain way, that's okay. You know, that's one day.
Yeah, I've thought about quitting so much. I know exactly what I do. I go to pastry school.
Well-
That's all I did during the pandemic was watch people make little cupcakes. And I'm like, that's what I'm going to do if I quit comedy.
Yeah.
Just make artisanal cupcakes with that sugared rosemary or whatever the fuck.
Richard's actually worked professionally in a real job. Can you speak a little bit about just, I guess, the turn and what that's like?
You should only do comedy if you have enough money to like do it until you're making money doing comedy. Like the people who quit and just start doing comedy with no job and no backup plan, it's like, that's not going to work. You know, like when I quit my job, I started running a comedy club. And then I was like, okay, now I'm making enough money doing my comedy club. Now I can pursue stand-up.
I also feel like, though, my friends who have made it in comedy, they also burned the boats. Like they didn't go to college. They were just like, I'm all in. And they gave themselves no out.
I think both are true. I think it's better if you can do what you said. But I mean, I quit and was working like retail and was like really broke and living with like 5 people in Queens because I started so young and I didn't have any money. You know what I mean? And I know people who just like never went to college, like you said. I think it's more sustainable if you have money. Like there's less pressure on you. Like it's way easier to keep going as opposed to like when you're like, oh my God, how am I going to make rent? Like there's just like, it's just a much more sustainable path. But I think both are like,
Well, in life, you have to do things that give you energy, right? So if you're just doing comedy, making zero money, and then being like, where's my food coming from? Eventually your energy goes to a level where there's no energy left. So it's like, you can't.
You're dead.
Yeah, and you're dead. Yeah, exactly. So you're talking about like, would you just tour for 20 years and just do that? That's not how it works. Like you'll either go down or you'll go up. Like muscles either atrophy or they grow.
Yeah.
So there's actually no such thing as just like touring for 20 years at the exact same level. Either you'll get less popular or more popular.
Yeah, I know this one comic, and he did all this stuff like Letterman, Star Search, and he's just like living hand to mouth now. It's like, oh my God, like the carnage sometimes. And then you see other people who have these amazing careers. Like, I think that's the wave of social media, which, by the way, you're so active in social media. You're always recording on shows. Whenever I see you, you always have a camera set up.
I'm like, I mean, I've had moderate success with it. I don't love it. Like it came in way after I'd been doing comedy. So it's like very alien and it takes a lot of time and focus and energy. And like there are positives where it's like you get to find and connect to fans, and like comedians who would never be able to make a living beforehand are now like finding their people and they're able to tour and eat and sustain themselves. And I think that's beautiful. But it's also just like very random what the internet picks and doesn't pick. So it adds another level of feeling like you don't have control per se. And it's like so much work. There's just so much effort into it. And I kind of like, I like traditional media where it's like, I like TV, I like movies. I want to like be able to, but yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings, I would say.
I don't know how random it is. Like everything is controlled by the algorithm now. So if you satisfy the algorithm, then you will get seen. And it's like, I just don't think people think about that. They just go like, oh, it's a random thing. The algorithm picks this. No, like if you want to be big on YouTube, what do you have to do? You have to create a video that people are going to watch the whole time and that they can put ads into. That's why if you look at YouTube, you see like, oh, people who post videos that are an hour long. Look at Josh Johnson. He posts every single week. He posts an hour-long video. YouTube throws 100 ads in the middle of it and they just throw it up to the top. So it's like, I think it's like, the game we're playing now is like we've moved from traditional gatekeepers, just a guy in a suit, to algorithm, which is how can I serve up ads? So that's what you make happy now. That's the game.
If I was like 18 and saw like the landscape of it, I'd be like, I'm out. This is like too intimidating. But maybe it's the artist in us that would just do it no matter what.
Well, I still think traditional paths are open too. It's like I'm like, working with the algorithm a little bit and like just doing a little bit of everything.
Are you
Try my
auditioning still?
best. Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, good. So you're going to be in LA then. You're not going to go anywhere.
It's not so much important to be here as it was because of self-tapes. The pandemic really changed shit. It's kind of wild.
Were you here during the pandemic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your parents weren't like, move back to Chicago?
No. I'd be like, probably looked at me like a pigeon. They're like, don't come in the house. I'm like limping. I've got gum in my eye. They're like, ugh.
I really respect the fact that you did this so young. That's not easy to do at any age. Even like Richard had a job. Starting young or quitting a good job takes considerable risk and belief in yourself. And it sounds like you're just like plowing forward.
Well, I think it's like you have to, you're either gonna do it or not. Sorry. Elon Musk had a video where he's like, if you have to ask me how to start a company, that means you're not going to start a company. Because it's like only people who start companies are the people that are willing to do it. So it's the same thing with stand-up. You only do it if you're willing to do it.
Yeah. And you also change as well. I mean, do you feel like your stand-up has changed considerably from when you first started out high school? Like,
I would hope
are you
so.
full Phoenix form?
I mean, I would hope my stand-up would just keep changing as I changed. You know what I mean? And I hope I don't emotionally stop growing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, shit. I mean, you see that sometimes where you'll be like a 6-year-old comic talking about like Tinder and dating. And you're like, what? Like, what is your life, man?
Yeah.
Don't you have grandkids? Like, why is this your personality? Like, I would just hope that I would evolve as a human being and my stand-up would follow suit. So I would hope that it would never hit my final form.
Can you speak about being a female Indian in comedy, just for like our viewers out there who are curious? Because I don't think I've had female comedians on, but they've actually never spoken about actually what that perspective is like. Is there more at stake for you because you've got to hit certain benchmarks in your life?
I think for some people, I just don't give a shit. I kind of had to like, because my family was so intense. So there was like at one point where I just stopped talking to them because it was a really toxic environment. So I also learned that I would never make my parents happy. Like I watched them complain about like my perfect brother. And I'm like, if you're going to complain about his PhD engineer ass, like what chance do I have? And it was kind of that realization that like, I can never do enough to make them happy. So that was freeing as well. And that I kind of had to choose between living for myself and just not being it. Like there was a point where like, you're having a mental breakdown when comedians are like, you need a therapist. But like in college, I was literally crumbling because it was that point where I had to stop pretending or like doing what my family wanted, leave school, and then like actually pick a career and like not, you know what I mean? Because it's like when I'm in school, it's like, okay, I'm still getting straight A's. Like I'm still living for my family in a way, but I knew I was going to stop that as soon as I graduated.
Yeah.
So it's like I almost had a nervous break. Like I couldn't process stepping into and like not being that perfect. Like I always had a fallback to like, here's the perfect daughter, here's who I really am. And then when those two worlds had to merge, it was like traumatic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it just kind of was a thing where it's like, if I want to live, if I want to survive, I gotta cut this, whatever this emotional tether is.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you don't love me, if you don't fuck with me, fuck you. I don't care. Like, it's just kind of like, even with my family now, we're good. I love them. I don't know if I'm going to say something wrong or do an acting role that has like a sex scene in it or whatever. Like if my family would still love me. And it's like, I look at them every day and I go, you could leave me. And that's fine because I'm going to do me and I'm going to do what I think is appropriate and right. And I work from my own moral code and my own love and my own belief. And as long as I think I'm doing something good and I'm trying to do and be good, that's all that matters to me. End of the day, period. I can't have it any other way. I won't survive.
If you do a sex scene that pays a lot of money, they will love you.
No, they won't. But it's like everything has nudity in it. Even like, I'm not even like, I wouldn't do like a very graphic thing, but it's like how many series where it's like the girl and the guy are like making out, like comedies where they like rip their shirt off or whatever. You don't see anything. But I feel like to my family, with how conservative they are, just seeing like me like in like a heated seat, like they would freak out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel like what you're saying, a lot of Indian people go through, especially Indian women, because it is like, okay, well, I've done the goody two-shoe thing, and now I'm going to try to own who I am and what I want to do. And that might not look like the upbringing that my parents, you know, sort of had me idolize. That was perfect. And so that is kind of hard to be able to step out. But it is important, like you said, to just know, like, this is what I want to do. And ultimately to create that healthy relationship back, because they were only advising you based on what they know.
Exactly.
It's just based on their exposure, what they think is best.
Exactly.
But their worldview is here and your worldview expanded. So you're just trying to, you know, spread your wings.
Because that's the thing. It's like, I will always love them. And I know they may not always love me. And it's like hard to hold that in your heart. But it's like, it is what it is. Because I'm going to do what I think is right. And believe it or not, you did raise me correctly. So I'm going to make good decisions. I want to put out great art. I want to put out things that people laugh at. And if that's not your vibe, cool. Like, whatever, man.
But, you know, listening to you speak, honestly, I was really inspired listening to that. I'm trying to make a movie with this girl. And, you know, I tell her, like, there's so much bad content out there. Like, sometimes it gets so diluted, I don't get inspired. And she was like, you have to keep watching good content.
Yes,
and you've
yes.
got to keep reminding yourself that there's good stuff out there. And I know with Richard, like, Richard's constantly pushing himself to, like, make the best stand-up possible. Like, he was talking about excellence, and you're also, like, you're chasing excellence. And it's hard to do that in this town. So it's nice to hear, you know, you're actually very clear. And that Indian turmoil, maybe, I don't know, do you think it's like we're Indians, like there's something broken, like broken wiring that pushes us into
No,
this?
it's a survival thing. It's like our parents came from India to, you know, come to America and thrive here. So they have a survival thing. It's the same thing with like parents who grew up in the Great Depression. It's like, you have to succeed. So it's like, you get what your parents' mentality is. So that's why we work like so much harder than other ethnicities, you know?
Do you think it's a fair game for us in Hollywood, being Indians?
Yeah, hell yeah. Dude, 100%. Indian people are like...
The stand-up comedy or entertainment.
Well, I mean, no, Indian comedians are in a huge, like we're in the best position. Indians are the new, I mean, comedians are the new rock stars. It used to be rock stars, then it was rappers, now it's comedians, right? And then like, who's cool in Hollywood? First white people, then black people, now it's Indian people.
I hate when people say, oh, there's so many more roles for Indians. I don't think it's some crazy thing.
That I actually believe. That I actually agree with you on. People go like, there's room for everybody at the top. There is not room for everybody at the top. People are like, oh, it's not a zero-sum game. It is, because attention is finite.
What's your opinion about that?
I think that depends on who's architecting the game. So I think, unfortunately, if you have like...
And I'll drop names too. I don't care.
No, but I mean, like, if you have like an older white executive who will look at a project and be like, okay, we have this Indian project already. It's ticked, it's done. We've hit that demographic. But these two Indian artists could be producing completely different work. But because they can only see you as your demographic and they think that way, which is a racist way of thinking, then it's like, yes, that's going to limit the number of opportunities. But I don't think there should be, or there is often, you know what I mean? Multiple people break through. And then often what's a positive is like when you see somebody, instead of thinking, oh, they took that spot, they are also proving our market value and being like, hey, look, this is a voice you never saw, you never gave a shot at. Look at them make money. Look at people having this interest. And then like companies will start trying to find the next blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So it does create other opportunities, even though it can also be limiting. So I think there's like a duality of things going on with that.
Who's the female Indian girl that's on top, or woman, I should say?
Probably Mindy Kaling, right? She's crushing it in Hollywood. She's doing great things. And look, now that she's there, she's created these shows, these roles starring other Indian actors. And it's just like...
Yeah.
expanding out. So I think overall it's a positive.
Yeah. I think she's done a lot of good for exposure. And when you were speaking, I was actually thinking, because when you were talking about doing an inappropriate scene and if your parents would react, in that, what is that show? The Never Have I Ever, right? Like there's some scenes in there for like I think the girl that's the main character, she's in high school.
Yeah.
And like there's some parts where there's like some making out and this and that, but like it's kind of normalized because I know my friends grew up in like the Sherman Oaks Valley area and they would watch that show and be like, that's totally us in high school. Like that's what we were doing behind our parents' backs.
Yeah.
You know? So it's kind of like it happens, and it's nice that Mindy's giving that space to tell kind of real stories that we're experiencing as Indian Americans and not just with like a purely Indian lens.
Yeah.
Well, Subhah, we got to wrap up, but I want to thank you for coming by.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you?
On Instagram, SUBHAHA, Subhaha, sorry. And then also, if you just go to my website, s-comedy.com, you'll see like my tour dates and all the other my social media, my YouTube.
Richard, you're back. You want to plug anything?
Follow me at Richard the Comedian on Instagram or mengoingtheirownway.com.
Ritu,
I'm good. Thanks.
thank you, Subhah, for coming by.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you guys for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Join us on Patreon. If you want to sponsor an episode, please reach out. We appreciate you. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.